What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to 3 Idiots Talking Podcast. Today we are doing a brand new video on our channel. I believe there's a couple series out there that are kind of like this, but we're gonna call this basically Let's Argue with the Chat, or our YouTube channel, or our Discord, whatever you guys want to call it. Today we are gonna go look at a certain channel on our Discord called the Argue With Us channel, where we have asked our Discord to provide us with things they disagree about us with the most, specifically either comments we made or opinions we've had about artists, songs, music, albums, whatever, or just their own hot personal takes, and we're gonna find the best ones to answer and respond to. So without further ado, argue with us. Let's see some of the best takes we got. Now we have one from, I think this is Rimnick. I don't know why. Oh right, this stupid stuff. I don't know why this happens on here, but I think it's from Rimnick, who says, from what I've heard, you three seem to hate Bruce Springsteen. Have you guys ever listened to Born to Run, the album? I think it's a masterpiece and it sounds way different than anything from Born in the USA, for example.
Bruce Springsteen is not nearly as compelling of a singer or songwriter that most people think he is. Like, there's songs on the album like Jungle Land, like these long songs that, in my opinion, are just boring as shit, because I don't think he's as good of a songwriter as he thinks he is. He tries to do these things that he's just not capable of doing. I don't know, that album's like a 7.5.
The Born to Run album?
Yes. And Born in the USA fucking sucks, but he already said, kind of already said it in a way.
Well, I wouldn't say that I hate Bruce Springsteen. I don't really care about him enough to hate him. I've heard, I don't know if I've ever finished the Born to Run album before, but I know I've heard a decent amount of it, and I've never listened to a Bruce Springsteen song and really cared about it, let alone one off of Born to Run. So I don't know. Maybe I'll give it a re-listen one of these days, but he's not an artist. He just doesn't really do anything for me.
Well, I can say I don't hate Bruce Springsteen at all. I do find his album Born in the USA very boring for the most part, but I don't have anything against him as a songwriter. I can see why a lot of America, especially the older generation when he first came out, really likes him. I've never listened to Born to Run for myself, so I can't have any real comment on it. I'm sure I've heard a song or two off of it, but I've never heard the album throughout, so I don't really have a comment on it. To say it's a masterpiece is high praise, though, for a Bruce Springsteen album. I have never seen a Bruce Springsteen album in any critic's top 10 list, so I don't even know what it's rated on Rate Your Music or anything like that, and I'm not saying Rate Your Music is the end-all be-all by any stretch, but masterpiece is high praise, and I don't know if Bruce Springsteen's capable of making a masterpiece, so I would have to go and listen and give it a real rating, but high praise from what I've seen. All right, next up, Anatoly with a very interesting take here. He says, in the core, the Crimson King does not deserve as much praise as it gets, being a 10 out of 10 masterpiece for many. Overall, a very good album. The first two songs are amazing, but after that, it turns into a repetitive, his word, mellotron slop with drums, guitar, not as interesting as they would get later in their discography. And finally, Sinfield's lyrics can be so pompous sometimes it's hard not to roll your eyes. It's a 7.5 to an 8 for Anatoly.
All right.
Noah?
It's not, I would say it's not a 10 out of 10. Moonchild, a little long, a little boring. Everything else on it is amazing. I would not say it turns into mellotron slop.
Mellotron slop. Repetitive mellotron slop.
First off, mellotron slaps. I'd never consider anything with it slop from what I've heard. I wouldn't say it's not interesting. I'd say every part of it, except for the majority of Moonchild is incredibly unique and interesting, and the lyrics don't come off as pompous to me. They come off as rather whimsical and introspective. Though I would give it like a 9 to a 9.5 out of 10.
9.5. Okay, so much at Cole?
I'm gonna mostly agree with Noah here. I am big Court of the Crimson King fan, outside really of most of Moonchild. I'm not sure why the first two songs are so much different than the rest than like a song like Epitaph, which is the third song, or the title track, or the partial title track, which is the last song. I don't know what is so wildly different about the first two compared to those two songs. They very much feel like they're in the same, you know, category, I guess, for lack of a better term. And I mean, I would say like the lyrics on Epitaph are pretty freaking rad. I think those are some amazing lyrics, especially the lyrics on the chorus. I think it's incredible lyricism. So, yeah, I mean, and a song like Epitaph has a very clear and distinct structure to it. So I don't understand where you're getting repetitive mellotron slop. I don't see where you're getting that with Epitaph or Court of the Crimson King title track. So disagree.
Okay.
I would say it's not quite a 10 out of 10 though. It is like a 9.5.
So I mean, for some, if you're saying that Court of the Crimson King does not deserve to be called like a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, like some people might call it, you're probably right about that. I think that it's not even their best album personally. I think Red is better. But that being said, this has some absolutely incredible songs, and not just from the first two. Like Cole said, Epitaph is fantastic. And I don't hear Mellotron slop whatsoever. I don't even really know what Mellotron is. It's the first time ever. Okay, well, I don't hear instrumental slop with drums and the guitar not being interesting. I don't know how you could call the guitar not interesting at all. Yeah, no, that's a terrible opinion. The lyrics are actually pretty fucking good by them on this, so I can't agree with the lyrics sounding pompous. I've heard so much more pompous or arrogant type of lyrics before from other bands, so yeah, it'd definitely be higher than a 7.5 to an 8. It's 9 to a 9.5 territory for sure. Definitely gonna agree with there. But to call it a masterpiece means you basically have no flaws, and that's not the case here either. So no, I don't call it a masterpiece, but it deserves its high praise it gets. All right, Hugo dropped some bangers in here. Okay, so
I think we can quickly re-rank that.
So Hugo gave us a ranking real quick. We got the Forever Story over Purple Rain, over Wish You Were Here, over Demon Days. Also, Yay the album over Paranoid, over Saint Elsewhere, over F sharp, A sharp. Noah, you want to quickly re-rank Mr. Hugo?
The first one that goes at the top, Wish You Were Here, Demon Days, Forever Story, Purple Rain.
Wow.
The second one goes F sharp, A sharp. Here's where you're gonna disagree. Yay, Paranoid, and I have not heard Saint Elsewhere.
Okay, so your first ranking, completely agree with you. Your the bottom ranking, horrible. The bottom ranking would be
Paranoid's so fucking overrated.
Paranoid, Yay, F sharp, A sharp, and then I haven't heard Saint Elsewhere either, so I can't comment on that one.
Yeah, you're both wrong.
Okay.
Being apparently the only person here who's actually heard every album on here. On top, Wish You Were Here, Demon Days, The Forever Story, Purple Rain. That's a pretty easy one to rank. The bottom, F sharp, A sharp, Infinity, Paranoid, Saint Elsewhere, Yay.
Kendrick, alright, AT Field. Kendrick Lamar writes great lyrics, but I cannot listen to his voice because it sounds way too nasally and or whiny to me. I'll take this one.
Nasally.
I'll take this one. First of all, at the beginning of his career, you're not wrong. He did sound very nasally. He was still trying to find his vocalizations. If you listen to his first album and his EP, yeah, you're pretty right about that. I'll give you, I'll say that too. That being said, as he gets better at, rapping, and he gets better at vocals, and his production gets better, starts working more with Dre, that all changes, and I can say honestly, by Good Kid, Mad City, there's nothing whiny or nasally about his voice at all. I completely disagree with that. There's a couple songs where he certainly adds emphasis to it to make it sound a bit more emotional on tracks, but that's an added emphasis because he's trying to deliver emotion to the lyrics. I wouldn't say he's sounding nasally or I would call it more whiny than nasally. There are rappers who do that, who do sound nasally, like and one of Cole and Noah's favorites, but I can't remember his name right now, and I can't stand the way that guy sounds, and I think even though he writes good lyrics, he sounds terrible. But Kendrick does not.
So you know who you're talking about. Never had an issue with Kendrick Lamar's voice in my life, even when I was first getting into him. I don't know. I feel like same people who say this will turn around and go flip on some Rolling Stones and think that Mick Jagger sounds amazing. I think it all comes down to preference. I have never had an issue with his like higher pitched voice, and sometimes he leans into the line, and I think when he does do that, it's to serve the song, and it works very well. So I don't get that.
I mean, it can be a bit nasally sometimes, but I think he uses it with good intentions. I think he just kind of does that when he's trying to like portray himself, like where he's playing a role as a different, like maybe himself as a younger, like when he was a kid or something, or a teenager. I mean, yeah, it's a little nasally sometimes, but it doesn't really bother me.
The rapper I was trying to think of was Danny Brown. That's the one I've never been able to fully get behind, but does write great lyrics. His voice irritates the hell out of me. But Kendrick, to me, I kind of agree with Cole. When he does get a little bit over ambitious with the voice, there's usually a purpose behind it. So, but most of the time, I don't think he really does that. I think if you listen to most of the songs, he doesn't really do it. Dark Side of the Moon is not a top 5 Pink Floyd album. Noah, you made a noise already.
I'm not going to give my top 5 because we're currently doing the Pink Floyd discography. Hop in to one of our streams, please.
Yes,
please.
Yes.
I'll say no. This is wrong. This is very wrong. Please stop. Please reevaluate everything.
Everything.
I believe in you to do better. You can do this.
Cole, is Dark Side in your top 5 Pink Floyd albums?
Yes. I don't think they have 5 albums where they were more successful in what they were trying to do than Dark Side of the Moon.
As Noah pointed out, we are doing the Pink Floyd's discography. And if you have a single one of those first 4 that we have done in your top 5, and you've heard the rest of their discography so far, reevaluate how you look at Pink Floyd, or I guess reevaluate how you look at prog rock, or maybe even psychedelic rock.
I can get having the first one in the top 5 if you're really into that.
All I'm gonna say is everything increases exponentially, production-wise and other means after and during Dark Side for their discography. So it just sounds better, even if you're not a huge fan of the style changes that come.
Oh, Alex.
Here we go. That. Okay. All right, one of our moderators and hosts sometimes gave us one. Alex post rock is just prog rock. I
mean, they have similar titles, sorta. I mean, post rock, I guess, just means like after rock. I don't really know what to make of the word post there. Prog rock just means progressive rock, so I can see that they have like similar titles, but I mean, sonically, does Rush sound even in the same stratosphere as like Godspeed? Does Genesis or Yes or King Crimson, are they anywhere near Talk, Godspeed, some of Swan's stuff? Like, it just sounds way different. And I would say that bands like Yes, Genesis, Rush, King Crimson do share a lot of similar aspects to their music sonically, so I get why those bands are in those genres and why the post-rock bands are not.
Let me just say, as someone who has entered both post-rock and prog rock genres in the last 2 years, I can firmly say they sound nothing alike and have extremely distinct characteristics, mainly the post-rock with its incredibly long ventures it takes into certain sounds of repeated melodies over and over again, and massive build-ups they do. So big difference, especially if you listen to like early Floyd versus like a band like Godspeed, you will hear incredible differences. Noah, anything else to add?
First, I wouldn't call early Floyd prog.
Okay, then
I'd call it psychedelic.
Then listen to any Floyd, really.
I would only call a couple of Floyd albums prog, like maybe one.
Maybe
but
like 3, 4.
I can understand why Alex said this, because I feel like the descriptions of the two genres could probably be pretty similar. But once you get down to the actual sound, that's where it's extremely different. With prog, like, you can definitely pick out a prog keyboard and a post rock keyboard, there is a very distinct sound. So yeah, I just disagree because they sound completely different, but I can see how like descriptions of them would be pretty similar.
Now, Buena Vista. Karma Police is a 7 out of 10 song, average on OK Computer, and definitely not top 10 Radiohead. Last minute or so is great, but its verse and chorus feel like the build-up that doesn't pay off really well. Both exit music and climbing up the walls are slower and more repetitive, but have such enticing crescendos that it makes the slow burn so worth it. But yeah, fine song, definitely overhyped. So, as the resident Karma Police lover in this channel, and the person who thinks it's their best song, let me just say, false on every stretch. Because here's the one thing Karma Police does have over all the songs you mentioned on OK Computer. First of all, I completely disagree about the part where it says it doesn't pay off really well. I don't know how you could even hear that and say it doesn't. That's just completely false. If you're just listening for a 4 to 5 minute long song that gives you everything Radiohead does great on OK Computer in one thing, like, or fantastic on OK Computer in one thing, it's perfect for it. It's not slow, as you mentioned. Exit music and climbing up the walls are kind of similar to it, but they're slower and, like you said, more repetitive. And even though if they have a slightly better crescendo that makes that slow part better, there's still a great fill of, as you put it, a crescendo or a payoff at the end of Karma Police. There's still something amazing at the end of Karma Police. It just does it in a more finely tuned package, and it doesn't extend so long. That's why I think it's their best song. It's everything Radiohead peaks at in one song. I don't see how it's overhyped at all. In fact, I think that's like trying to say, like, I'm trying to think of a great example, but I just don't have one off the top of my head. But no, completely disagree. But maybe these two might agree with you. Noah, you look like you might be.
Certainly one of the less adventurous songs on OK Computer. Definitely one of the more basic ones. I'm sure that's why it was a single. Yeah, I'd call it overhyped.
Yeah.
I would not call it a 7 out of 10. I would never call it a 7 out of 10. That's a little too much. It's still a very well-written song, very pretty. I don't even know if there's a crescendo that happens in the song.
The ending.
Just the noise.
For a minute there
is.
I lost myself.
Oh, but yeah, that's a pretty weak crescendo.
It's not weak. It's a great payoff.
It's a good how's there a payoff when there's not really much of a build-up?
There's not much of a build-up on any of their albums.
Well, usually a payoff comes before a build-up. That's why I'm wondering why he said payoff.
Well, he also said, or she also said that there's the other songs that they mentioned was that they have enticing crescendos, but there's no real build-ups on any of their albums. Really.
Exit music just has a more dramatic transition from like very quiet to really loud, but I wouldn't really say there's a build-up to exit music.
If you're gonna call it a build-up, I mean, if you're gonna call any of OK Computer a build-up, then if what they're going for is what they're saying, then I would call it the best one out of those three. I
will say that climbing up the walls and exit music are definitely, I think that they do better in their dramatics. I do enjoy a lot more exit music. Probably has one of the better moments on the entire album with the drum fill into those giant synths. It's not a 7 out of 10 song though. It's like 8.5 to a 9.
Oh.
I mean, I definitely don't think it's their best song. I wouldn't even say it's the best song on OK Computer. But I mean, just based on the lyrics and the melodies and how, I mean, because I think the outro, for a minute there I lost myself, that part of the song is one of the better moments in their discography. At least one of the more catchy moments in their discography. I mean, I just like melodically, lyrically, and it moves really well as a song. Like, I don't know how you come away from that with a 7 out of 10. It feels really dramatic. I would definitely give it at least a 9.
Are any of you guys putting in your top 10 Radiohead?
No.
Maybe. I don't know. I'd have to look at it. That's a tough call.
Mox Reckoner says Reckoner is nowhere near Radiohead's best song, let alone top 3 on In Rainbows. Well, first of all, I think it is top 3 on In Rainbows, and it is definitely top 10 in Radiohead. So I just disagree flat out with this statement.
It's It's top 1 in Rainbows.
What is it like?
What would be above it?
What
on
is
that
it
album?
not doing? That
Well,
like, what is it not doing? Because to me, that song has such an incredible atmosphere to it. It has an atmosphere to it that I don't really think any other Radiohead song outside of maybe How to Disappear has. Like, it's a borderline, existential crisis of a song. And I mean, he's literally, like, lyrically, he's looking into, like, his own death. And I just think it's dramatic, which is not necessarily a word that I always love using to describe something that I like in music, but it's dramatic in such a perfect way. It has such an incredible vibe to it.
I made a slight error. I meant to say that it's number 2 on that album. I think Weird Fish is the best. But no.
Kind of just gonna double down on everything Cole said, as well as it being my favorite and probably the best Tom York vocal performance.
Amazing.
Incredibly beautiful, incredibly catchy. Yeah, it just creates a very haunting atmosphere at points. I can't think of a single pitfall of the song. I can't think of anything that's not amazing.
And a really unique instrumental for them. They never really tried anything that sounded like that before, and I think they pull it off tremendously well. It's beautiful and incredibly dark at the same time, but not pretentious.
Buena Vista, back again, says,
because I agree with this one.
Also, Spiderland by Slint is really not great. I love the songs and bands that eventually followed, but as a starting point, the math rock sound was really rough, and vocally, McMahon, I don't know his name, is seriously underwhelming. Bro really does the most non-engaging vocal takes and blandest talky voice for his 3 a.m. poems and slaps them on a funky, clean guitar riff. Buena Vista's main point, Spiderland is not that great. Cole, you said you pretty much agree with this take.
I wholeheartedly agree with the first sentence. I don't necessarily agree with the criticisms, but I do agree with the overall point. I do think Spiderland is an overrated album. I've never really thought any of the guitar riffs on that album sounded particularly funky or all that clean. They're pretty raw sounding. It was a pretty rough recording. There is something really odd about the way they mix the vocals on that album to where they do sound bizarre. And not necessarily in a good way. It does sound very garage rock-esque and very math rock, as they pointed out. But it does feel a lot like a post-rock album too. I mean, that you could put it in a lot of different categories, but I mean, I'm just really not a fan of. I don't really like the lyrics that much, and I'm not crazy about the vocal delivery on a lot of songs, and they don't really seem to go anywhere all that resonant with me.
Okay. Is it overrated? Yeah, it is. Is it good? Bordering on great? Yeah.
Ooh.
Instrumentally, this album is very good. The writing, especially on guitar, is great. They do amazing with their dynamics. The tones, especially the heavier ones, are piercing in the best way possible. The vocals, they're rough. The vocals are rough. Even on a song where he tries to sing like Washer, yeah, it's rough. I think the lyrics are very good. I think the storytelling they do is pretty damn good, especially on a song like Good Morning Captain. I feel like it's a perfect example of great storytelling and kind of getting, writing these instrumentals that perfectly fit the theme of whatever they're talking about. But yeah, the overall quality of the recordings and vocals definitely bring the album down a bit, especially in a couple dull moments as well, I will agree. I think it's an 8 out of 10.
That was our Let's Argue very first in this series. We plan to do more as we continue to get some arguments that people want us to present, and we'll see how they go. The more we do this and the more arguments people find of our opinions, the more interesting these could get, and the more maybe spicy takes we might end up landing. So I hope you guys enjoy. Let us know in the comments down below if you guys have any specific arguments you want to present to us. You can also do them in the comments, or you can join our Discord. Wow, English. Discord. Or you can join our Discord and go to the Argue With Us channel and drop one of your wildest takes, or it's just something you completely disagree with us about. I mean, there's so much people have disagreed with us about in the past that I'm sure you can find something that it doesn't have to be all three of us. We don't all have to share the same opinion. It could just be one of us. But whatever you want to argue with us about, drop it in here and maybe you'll be featured on our next video. Thank you guys for watching.
You just have any music questions?
Or yeah, I mean,
comparison.
If you want to,
I'm more so meant comparisons. Don't ask me like, I don't know what a music question really means.
Whatever you want to see us argue about, and it could be something that we three disagree about and you want to just hear our arguments for that as well. So leave a like down below, hit subscribe. Hope you guys did enjoy. Follow us on Twitter, join our Discord. We'll see you in the next video.